First of all, congratulations on Luckiest Girl Alive. It is a fantastic watch. When you read the script, what captured your attention about this?
What captured my attention, I mean, when they first sent me the script for the before I was a part of it, it was
Mhm.
just overall the story and getting to it. You don't really cross, you don't, a lot of the time you're not able to, or you don't cross paths with something that's just so important to tell and such an important story to tell. And it's one of those stories that I knew after reading the script that it has such capacity to spark a conversation. And I mean, it's based off the author's real life. And this character Ani, she's not perfect and she's human. And we're able to follow her journey as she's unraveling this trauma, and she's dealing with all these different emotions. And it made me just so drawn to the film. And I knew it was just such an important story to tell.
Definitely. All these characters are so lifelike. What specifically about your character was difficult to portray, or what exactly did you want to say through your character?
Yeah, so she's one of Ani's antagonists in the film, and she contributes to some of the trauma that she deals with. I know for me to be able to portray this character, I wanted to understand more about her. I didn't want to just classify her as being the mean girl. And so after reading the book and reading the story, I knew that she dealt with a lot of trauma as well. Olivia Kaplan, and she's a character from the book. And I found out that she was abused growing up, and she put so much pressure on herself to do well at school, and that pressure on herself and that trauma, she takes it out on Ani, and that contributes to some of the trauma that Ani deals with in the flashback when she was younger.
Definitely. And you mentioned the mean girl. These cliques kind of naturally happen in high school. How were you in high school? How did you deal through that? Because I know as a guy, it's always seen as boys will be boys, but for women, it's a lot different. How did you deal with growing up and these cliques that form?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a realistic part of high school. I went to a drama arts high school and majored in drama, so I was one of the drama kids. I would say that I was very like artsy growing up, and I had like my two closest friends growing up. And but it's a very real thing. There are cliques and cliques and clicks and and I think you just have to, it part of the journey and part of growing and finding yourself is having to find your way through all of that and just be yourself and find your passions. And you're there to learn and make friends and find those people. You don't have to necessarily click with everybody. So I think that was for me. I was definitely not. I would like to think that I was not anywhere near like a mean girl or anything like that. I was definitely just probably one of the very loud drama kids, but also very quiet because I feel like I have that quiet part of me. But I was just there to do my art, and I just enjoyed school and found the two friends that I was closest with and stayed with them.
Since you were a drama major and you went to a drama-oriented school, did you ever feel like you would be at this point right now, having made a movie with such an amazing cast, such an amazing story, and such great filmmakers?
No, I had no idea. I mean, I didn't even necessarily put my focus into acting until a little bit later. I had an audition, I think, around my second or third year for a show called Degrassi, and that's when I really started to believe in myself in pursuing acting, and I started training and getting good at what I do. But never would I have thought that I would have been here today. I didn't really think about it until it happened, and until I landed that part on Degrassi where I thought I can pursue this.
Yeah, Degrassi is an amazing series. It has had so many iterations. What was it like for you getting on this show? How did you feel? What was that moment like for you?
Getting on Degrassi?
Yeah.
It was very exciting. I mean, it was like I just remember it was every actor's young actor's dream to be boys and girls. It was their dream to be a part of the show, I and including mine. So it was a very long process. It was like I auditioned and then I kept getting brought back for chemistry reads for different characters, and it was one of those moments where you learn that you have to be persistent and you have to keep going, and you could be just very close to landing a role on the show. But I actually grew up watching the show, and then the actress that I admired on the show that I would say I would watch sitting at home is one of the actresses that I had a scene with. So it was crazy how that turned out, and it was very incredible, and it was a great experience.
Definitely. So you do a multitude of things, including acting and dancing. That must take a ton of dedication and passion. Where do you get that from? What makes you, continue to go through all this?
I think growing up, and like always having to practice piano, and I had to practice discipline in karate, and I not only did I just enjoy it, that was a part of it too. I think when you enjoy something, you stick with it, and that passion makes you dedicated and work harder. That was a part of it, but also learning like discipline at a very young age. My growing up, it was always very hectic. I worked as a young artist. I did around like over 35 television commercials before I turned 13. So I was always in that world and very had that discipline and work ethic growing up. And so I'm able to take it with me now as I get older and play different characters, and I'm still working in this industry.
Awesome. And continuing to work is something that I think a lot of actors struggle to do. What makes you choose the roles that you choose to do?
It's just like, for example, like this latest movie, like finding a story and being super passionate about it, and wanting to be a part of it and finding something exciting. I think just that whole storytelling world for me was very it's it it's why I want to be in this field and tell those stories, because there are so many important stories and to be told from many different people of many different walks of life. And I think that it's, for me, that's, I've always been passionate about that and want to tell that story, and um, I think it's important.
Definitely. And Luckiest Girl Alive, like you said, should spark conversations. What kind of conversations do you hope to get out of this story?
I think anyone dealing with trauma, any kind of trauma, even not just the trauma that Ani dealt with, is able to really feel heard. You know what I mean? And any kind of conversation is a valid conversation and an acceptable conversation to have after this movie. You know, even if it just made you feel something, even if it's just as simple as that, and telling somebody or speaking up about what you went through, because a lot of people that deal with trauma are afraid to talk about it. And I feel like in this film, you know, she's going through so many different emotions, and you know, at the end she's able to finally say, like, I'm not, without spoiling it, you know, like she's able to actually speak up and say what's on her mind, instead of just holding that part of her back and saying something else. You know what I mean? Like, there's two different voices, and letting the inner voice sometimes come out is okay. And not just feeling heard, but feeling understood, and feeling like it's okay to deal with what you're going through. And it's just an amazing depiction, I think, of that trauma in this movie. Just, I feel
As you
enriched just even being a part of it.
as you've been doing press for this movie, how important has it come out to be true to yourself, to continue on your path, not to like take in all of the exterior stuff that kind of obscures you from seeing that goal?
Yeah, you just have to listen to your inner voice and do what you think is right. And you know, if somebody tries to put you down or it tries to tell you to be a certain way, when it works out the most is when you're most authentic to who you are. I know that's like me speaking, and that's my experience, but what makes you different is what works, and it's the beautiful part about who you are, and what you have to bring to the table. And you don't have to try to shy away from that. I think that's it. It makes life more interesting. It makes projects more interesting, and just, it's so important to just be who you are, because that's a beautiful thing.
definitely. Well, you did a fantastic job. This was an incredible watch. And is there anything that you're working on that you can talk about, or?
Well, thank you. But I can share that I'm currently working on my music, my EP. It's very exciting because it's all the styles that I grew up listening to, like pop, and it has some R&B influence and some dance influence. So a lot of the artists that it's inspired by are the artists that I grew up listening to. And I'm working with an incredible producer, Roy Hamilton III, and he's worked with Britney Spears and Michael Jackson and NSYNC, and so I'm very excited to share it when the time comes. But I'm working on it, so.
Awesome. You are completely multi-talented. You're incredible. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.